She stood at the bakery counter, hands trembling, asking a question no mother should ever have to ask. "Do you have any leftover cake for my quadruplets?" The staff exchanged uncomfortable glances, bound by policy. But in the corner booth, a man in an expensive suit overheard everything, and what he did next would change 5 lives forever. Welcome to Stories by Jason. If you're settled in and ready for a good story, hit that subscribe button and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I've got another exciting story coming your way tomorrow, and trust me, you don't want to miss it. Thank you so much for the love and support. You're truly appreciated, and I'm so grateful to have you here with me. The afternoon sun painted golden streaks across the display windows of the Golden Crust Bakery, illuminating rows of perfectly frosted cakes, glistening pastries, and artisan breads that seemed to mock every empty stomach in the world. The air inside was thick with the intoxicating aroma of vanilla, cinnamon, and butter, a cruel perfume for anyone who entered hungry. Marissa Chen stood just inside the doorway, frozen between hope and humiliation. Her clothes were clean but worn thin at the elbows and knees. Her dark hair was pulled back in a ponytail that hadn't been properly washed in 4 days. Her hands trembled as they clutched the frayed strap of a canvas bag that held nothing but a water bottle and the weight of her failures as a mother. Behind the counter, 2 young employees, Jessica with her bright pink apron and Marcus with his carefully groomed beard, were arranging cupcakes in pyramid formations. They moved with the easy confidence of people who'd never wondered where their next meal would come from. Marissa took 3 steps forward, then stopped. Just ask, she told herself. The worst they can say is no. But she knew the worst wasn't rejection. The worst was the look, that mixture of pity and discomfort that people wore when confronted with poverty they couldn't fix and didn't want to see. She'd seen that look at the community center, at the discount grocery store when her card was declined, in the eyes of her former neighbors before she lost the apartment. Can I help you?" Jessica's voice was professionally pleasant but edged with uncertainty. Marissa didn't look like their typical customer. The Golden Crust catered to the upscale residential neighborhood 3 blocks east, the one with the manicured lawns and European cars. Marissa's mouth went dry. She'd rehearsed this moment during the 40-minute walk from the shelter, but all her practiced words evaporated under the fluorescent lights. "I was wondering." Her voice came out as barely more than a whisper. She cleared her throat and tried again. "I was wondering if you have any leftover cake or pastries, things you're going to throw away at the end of the day." The 2 employees exchanged a glance. Marcus's expression softened immediately, but Jessica's lips pressed into a thin line. "It's not for me," Marissa added quickly, desperately. "It's for my children, my quadruplets. They're 4 years old and today is, well, it's not exactly their birthday, but it's close enough, and they've been so good, so brave through everything, and I just wanted," her voice cracked, "I just wanted them to have something special, even just once, even if it's day-old cake." The bakery fell silent except for the soft jazz playing from hidden speakers and the hum of refrigerated display cases. Jessica shifted uncomfortably. "Ma'am, I'm really sorry, but we have a policy. We can't give away food, even expired items. Corporate rules about liability and—" "I understand," Marissa interrupted, shame flooding her face with heat. "I'm sorry, I shouldn't have asked, I'm sorry." She turned to leave, blinking rapidly against the tears that threatened to spill over. But Marcus leaned forward, his voice low. "Jessica, come on. We throw stuff out every night anyway." "We throw it in the locked dumpster that gets picked up by the food waste company," Jessica countered, her tone apologetic but firm. "If the district manager finds out we gave away inventory without payment, we could both lose our jobs. You know what happened to that girl at the Sherman Boulevard location." Marissa's hand was on the door handle when another voice cut through the tension, a voice that was quiet but carried the weight of absolute certainty. "How much for everything in the display case?" All 3 of them turned toward the corner booth they'd forgotten was occupied. The man sitting there was perhaps in his late 50s, with silver-threaded dark hair combed back from a lined forehead. His suit was charcoal gray and tailored so precisely it could only have been custom-made. A silk tie in deep burgundy lay against a crisp white shirt. His shoes were Italian leather, polished to a mirror shine. But it was his eyes that arrested attention, dark, haunted eyes that held oceans of private grief. Roland Vance had been sitting in that booth for 40 minutes, nursing a black coffee that had long gone cold. He'd come to the Golden Crust because it was the last place he and his wife Alina had visited together before the accident. 3 years ago, almost to the day, they'd sat in this very booth, sharing a slice of lemon cake and making plans for their daughter Sophie's 8th birthday party. Now Alina was gone, Sophie was gone, and Roland had discovered that all the money in the world, all the real estate developments, all the investment portfolios, all the quarterly earnings reports, couldn't fill the void they'd left behind. He'd stopped coming to the bakery after the funeral, stopped doing most things that reminded him of them. He'd buried himself in work, in numbers, in the mechanical rhythms of business that demanded nothing of his heart. But today, on the anniversary of their deaths, something had pulled him back to this place. And then he'd heard Marissa's voice, cracking with the kind of desperation he recognized, the desperation of someone who would endure any humiliation for the people they loved. Quadruplets, he'd heard her say, 4 children, the same age Sophie would have been now. He'd watched her shoulders curl inward with shame, watched her turn to leave empty-handed, watched the light in her eyes dim a little more. And something in his chest, something he'd thought had died in the twisted wreckage of a Toyota Camry on the I-90 interchange, suddenly stirred back to life. Not hope exactly, not yet. But something close to it. "I'm sorry, what?" Jessica blinked at him, clearly unsure she'd heard correctly. Roland stood, reaching into his jacket for his wallet, a slim leather billfold that contained credit cards with no limits and a life with no purpose. "I asked how much for everything in the display case," he repeated calmly, moving toward the counter. "The cakes, the pastries, the cookies, all of it." Marcus's eyes widened. "Sir, that would be several $1,000s worth of." "And I'll need it packaged for travel," Roland continued as if Marcus hadn't spoken. "Boxes, bags, whatever you have. Also, do you have fresh sandwiches, prepared meals?" "We have a refrigerated section with." "I'll take a selection of those as well. Enough for a family of 5 for several days." Marissa had turned back from the door, her expression caught between confusion and something that looked dangerously like hope. "Sir, you don't have to." Roland finally looked at her directly, and Marissa felt the full weight of his gaze, sad, kind, and utterly certain. "You have 4 children waiting for you," he said simply. "They shouldn't wait any longer." Roland turned back to the stunned employees, pulling out a black American Express card and placing it on the counter with the quiet authority of someone accustomed to making things happen. "Start with the birthday cakes," he instructed. "The ones with the fresh frosting, not the day-old items, the best you have." Jessica and Marcus stared at the card, then at each other, then at Marissa, who looked like she might faint. "Sir," Marissa managed, her voice shaking, "I can't accept this. I only asked for leftovers. This is too much. This is." "You asked for what you thought you could accept," Roland interrupted gently. "That's different from what you actually need." He gestured toward the display case. 4 children means 4 small cakes, I think, or 1 large one. Which would they prefer?" Marissa's mouth opened and closed soundlessly. Her eyes were filling with tears that she was too exhausted to hold back anymore. I can't." She pressed a hand to her mouth, overwhelmed. Roland felt something crack deeper in his chest. He'd been numb for so long, going through motions, attending meetings, signing documents, existing but not living. Every morning he woke up and remembered that Alina and Sophie were gone. Every night he fell asleep hopping. He wouldn't wake up to remember it again. The therapist, his business partner, had insisted he called it complicated grief. Roland called it Tuesday. But now, watching this woman struggle with the simple act of accepting kindness, he felt anger stirring beneath his numbness. Anger at a world that forced mothers to beg for crumbs. Anger at himself for becoming so lost in his own pain that he'd forgotten other people were drowning too. And beneath the anger, something more dangerous, purpose. 4 small cakes, he decided for her, turning to Jessica. Chocolate, vanilla, strawberry, and what's the 4th flavor? "We have red velvet, lemon, and marble," Jessica offered, already moving toward the display with new efficiency. When a customer could pay, policy became flexible. One of each of those as well, Roland said. Children should have choices. Marcus had recovered his composure and was already pulling out the bakery's sturdy carrying boxes, white cardboard with the Golden Crust logo stamped in gold. Sir, should we include candles? Birthday napkins? Yes, everything for a proper celebration. Marissa made a sound that was half laugh, half sob. They're going to think I've lost my mind. This morning we had oatmeal from the shelter, and tonight I'm going to show up with 7 cakes. Then they'll have an excellent story to tell someday, Roland replied. He studied the refrigerated section, pointing to pre-made sandwiches, fruit cups, juice boxes, and containers of pasta salad. Add these as well. And what else? What do children like? Your children, sir, Marcus asked carefully. Roland's expression flickered. Just for a moment, grief flashed across his features like lightning through clouds. No, not mine. An awkward silence followed, broken by Marissa's quiet voice. They like chicken nuggets, and applesauce, and grapes. Oh God, they haven't had fresh grapes in 2 months. She was crying openly now, past the point of maintaining dignity. They like mac and cheese and carrot sticks with ranch dressing and those little cheese crackers shaped like fish. She looked at Roland with raw desperation. Why are you doing this? Who are you? Roland didn't answer the second question. He wasn't sure he knew anymore. Who was Roland Vance? Once he'd been someone's husband, someone's father, a man who built things, created jobs, transformed neighborhoods. He'd had purpose beyond profit. Alina had made sure of that, always pushing him toward projects that mattered, that helped people. After the accident, he'd been a ghost haunting his own life, going through motions, building buildings no one needed, making money that brought no joy. But standing in this bakery, watching this woman break down over the promise of grapes for her children, Roland felt something he hadn't felt in 3 years. The sense that his presence in a room actually mattered. I'm someone who remembers what it's like to want desperately to give your child everything and feel like you're failing, he said finally, honestly. I'm someone who wishes I'd had more time, more chances. He met Marissa's eyes. You still have your chances. Your children are waiting. Don't waste time questioning gifts, just accept them and go be with them. Jessica had filled 2 large boxes with cakes and was working on a third with pastries. Marcus was loading a shopping bag with refrigerated items, his earlier skepticism replaced with something like reverence. Sir, this is incredibly kind, he said softly. The total is going to be around $3,800. Are you sure? I'm sure, Roland interrupted. He glanced at Marissa. Do you have transportation? She shook her head. I walked here. The bus doesn't run to this area on Sundays. Where are you staying? The Hamilton Street Family Shelter, about 3 miles from here. Roland nodded, unsurprised. He'd funded the construction of the Hamilton Street Shelter through his foundation 5 years ago, one of Alina's projects that he'd maintained after her death, writing checks but never visiting, keeping the memory at arm's length. You can't carry all this 3 miles, he observed. I'll drive you. Sir, that's not negotiable, he said firmly but not unkindly. Consider it part of the delivery service. Jessica had finished packing everything. 7 cake boxes of various sizes, 3 shopping bags of food, a separate bag with plates, napkins, plastic forks and candles. Enough for a celebration that would feed a family for days. She ran the card. The transaction processed without a hitch. $3, $847.32 charged to an account that wouldn't notice the expense any more than the ocean notices a drop of rain. Roland signed the receipt and added a $500 tip, writing it in firmly so there would be no question. Marcus stared at the tip line. Sir, this is, thank you so much. Thank you for your kindness earlier, Roland replied, referring to Marcus's instinct to help before policy intervened. Don't lose that. He began gathering boxes and Marissa moved to help him, but he shook his head. I've got these. Can you manage those bags? She nodded, still looking dazed, and picked up the shopping bags with trembling hands. As they moved toward the door, Jessica called out, Ma'am, I hope your children have a wonderful celebration. Marissa turned back, tears streaming freely now. Thank you, you have no idea, thank you. Outside, the afternoon had softened into early evening, the sun painting the sky in shades of amber and rose. Roland's car was parked half a block down, a dark blue Mercedes S-Class that probably cost more than Marissa had earned in the past 3 years combined. He opened the trunk with a key fob, arranging the boxes carefully so nothing would shift during the drive. Marissa placed the bags beside them, moving like someone in a dream. When Roland opened the passenger door for her, she hesitated. "I don't even know your name," she said. "Does it matter?" "It matters to me. I need to know who to thank, who to pray for." Roland considered lying, considered staying anonymous, completing this good deed like a ghost passing through. But something in her earnest eyes made him choose honesty. "Roland," he said, "my name is Roland." "Roland," she repeated as if memorizing it. "I'm Marissa, Marissa Chen." "It's nice to meet you, Marissa Chen." She climbed into the passenger seat, and Roland closed the door gently before walking around to the driver's side. As he started the engine, he caught sight of his reflection in the rearview mirror and barely recognized the man looking back. His eyes were still haunted, still sad. But for the first time in 3 years, they were also alive. The drive to Hamilton Street took 12 minutes through neighborhoods that transformed like pages in a book, from the polished affluence near the bakery, to the worn dignity of working-class blocks, to the quiet desperation of the shelter district. Marissa sat very still in the passenger seat, her hands folded in her lap, trying not to touch anything. The car smelled like leather and subtle cologne. Classical music played softly from speakers she couldn't see. The seats were heated despite the mild weather, and she felt like she was being held in a gentle, warm embrace. It had been so long since anything had felt gentle. "How old are they?" Roland asked, breaking the comfortable silence. "Your quadruplets." 4 years and 3 months, Marissa replied. "They were born premature, 28 weeks, spent 2 months in the NICU. I used to sit beside their incubators and promise them that if they just kept fighting, I'd give them the best life. I'd keep them safe. I'd make sure they had everything." Her voice went hollow. Some promises are harder to keep than others. Roland kept his eyes on the road, his hands steady on the wheel. "What are their names?" "Ethan, Emma, Elijah, and Ella." A smile flickered across her face, the first real smile Roland had seen from her. I know all the E names. My husband thought it was adorable. He said we'd be the E-team." "Your husband?" Roland asked carefully, hearing the past tense in her voice. "Marcus." She closed her eyes. "He died 16 months ago. Construction accident, a crane malfunction, wrong place at the wrong time. One minute I had a partner, a co-parent, a plan for our future. The next minute I had 4 toddlers, medical debt from the NICU I was still paying off, and a salary from my customer service job that barely covered childcare." She opened her eyes again, staring out the window at the passing streets. "I tried. God, I tried so hard, but childcare for quadruplets costs more than I could make. I lost the job when I had to take too much time off because they got sick. 4 kids means someone's always sick. Lost the apartment 6 months later. My parents passed away years ago, and Marcus's family blamed me for his death. Said I should have convinced him to take a safer job. Maybe they were right." "They weren't," Roland said firmly. "Accidents are called accidents because no one chooses them." Marissa looked at him with new attention. "You sound like you know something about that." "I do." He kept his voice even, controlled. "My wife and daughter died 3 years ago. Car accident. A semi-truck ran a red light and they were in the intersection at the wrong moment. Wrong place, wrong time." Marissa drew in a sharp breath. "Oh God, Roland, I'm so sorry." "So am I," he took a breath. "Her name was Alina, our daughter was Sophie, she would have been 7 now." They sat with that for a moment. 2 people who'd lost pieces of themselves, driving through the fatting light with 7 cakes in the trunk and the weight of grief in the air between them. "The shelter," Roland said carefully. "How long have you been there?" 3 months. There's a 9-month limit. We have 6 months left to find housing we can afford, which is basically impossible in this city on my income. After that," she didn't finish the sentence. After that was a darkness she couldn't let herself think about too long. "And the quadruplets, how are they handling it?" Marissa's eyes filled again. "They're amazing, resilient. They don't complain. They share everything, even though there's barely anything to share. Ethan gives his juice box to Ella when she's sad. Emma reads the same library book to Elijah every night. They tell each other stories about the house we're going to have someday, the backyard, the separate bedrooms. She wiped at her eyes angrily. They believe me when I promise it'll get better. They trust me. And I'm terrified I'm just teaching them that trusting people leads to disappointment. You're teaching them resilience, Roland countered. You're teaching them that their mother fights for them. That matters more than you realize. Does it? Because from where I'm sitting, I'm the woman who begged for trash cake and needed a stranger to rescue her. Roland pulled up to a stoplight and turned to look at her directly. You're the woman who walked miles to find something special for her children. You're the woman who set aside pride for love. That's not weakness, Marissa. That's the strongest thing I've seen in 3 years. The light changed. Roland drove on. They turned onto Hamilton Street, and the shelter came into view. A 3-story brick building with fresh paint and clean windows, better maintained than most in the neighborhood. Roland recognized it from the architectural drawings he'd approved years ago, back when Alina was still pushing him to do more, be more, care more. He parked in the visitor lot and turned off the engine. For a long moment, neither of them moved. I don't know how to thank you, Marissa said finally. I don't have the words for what you've done, for what this means. Then don't thank me, Roland replied. Just go celebrate with your children, let them be happy, let yourself be happy. He got out and opened the trunk, gathering the boxes. Marissa took the bags, and together they walked toward the shelter entrance. Inside, the lobby was clean but institutional. Linoleum floors, fluorescent lights, a reception desk behind plexiglass. A security guard looked up from his phone and smiled. Ms. Chen, you're back. The kids have been asking about you every 10 minutes. Hey, Dexter, Marissa's voice was tight with emotion. I brought some things. Dexter's eyes widened when he saw the boxes Roland was carrying. Ma'am, what did you do? I met someone kind, she said simply. They took the stairs to the second floor. Elevators were for residents with mobility issues only. The hallway was narrow, with identical doors every 15 feet. From behind them came sounds of life, televisions, conversations, a baby crying, children laughing. Marissa stopped at room 217 and set down the bags to fish a key from her pocket. Her hands were shaking. They're in here, she said unnecessarily. All 4 of them, probably driving Mrs. Patterson crazy. She watches them when I go out. She looked at Roland with sudden anxiety. They're going to be loud and probably jump on you and ask a million questions. I can take the boxes from here if you want to. I'd like to meet them, Roland interrupted quietly, if that's okay. Marissa stared at him for a heartbeat longer, then nodded and unlocked the door. The room was small, barely 15 by 20 feet, with 2 bunk beds against one wall, a tiny kitchenette against another, and a cramped bathroom visible through a half-open door. But it was clean, and someone had made an effort to make it cheerful. Children's drawings were taped to the walls. Stuffed animals were arranged neatly on the pillows. A deck of cards sat beside a well-worn book on the small table. And in the center of the room, like 4 small suns, were the quadruplets. They looked up simultaneously when the door opened. 4 pairs of wide eyes in 4 beautiful faces that shared their mother's delicate features and their late father's warm brown eyes. Ethan, slightly taller and clearly the self-appointed protector, moved to the front. Emma, with a purple beret holding back her dark hair, clutched a worn teddy bear. Elijah, wearing glasses held together at one corner with medical tape, stood beside his sister. And Ella, the smallest, peeked out from behind the others with cautious curiosity. Mama, they shrieked in unison, breaking formation and rushing toward Marissa in a tangle of small arms and joyful chaos. Mrs. Patterson, a grandmother in her 60s with kind eyes and capable hands, rose from the bottom bunk where she'd been reading to them. Oh good, you're back. They've been, she stopped mid-sentence, seeing the boxes Roland was holding. Oh my. Marissa was kneeling now, surrounded by her children trying to hug all 4 at once. I missed you so much. Did you bring food? Ethan asked hopefully. Mrs. Patterson shared her crackers but were still hungry. I brought something better than crackers, Marissa said, her voice thick with tears and joy. I brought a celebration. She stood and gestured to Roland, who set the boxes down on the table carefully. "This is Mr. Roland. He's a friend who helped Mama today. Can you say thank you?" "Thank you, Mr. Roland," they chorused, though they were eyeing the boxes with barely contained excitement. Roland felt his throat tighten. They were so small, so full of life and hope despite everything. Sophie had been like that, incandescently happy, finding magic in ordinary moments. "You're very welcome," he managed. "I heard it was almost your birthday." "Not really," Emma corrected with 4-year-old honesty. "Our birthday is in June, but Mama says we can celebrate whenever we want in our hearts." "Your Mama is right." Roland glanced at Marissa. "Should we show them?" Marissa nodded, wiping at her eyes, and began opening boxes. The quadruplets gasped in perfect harmony as cake after cake was revealed. Chocolate towers with fudge frosting, vanilla clouds with buttercream, strawberry dreams with pink swirls, red velvet richness with cream cheese icing, marble mysteries and lemon sunshine. "Is this real?" Elijah whispered, pushing his taped glasses up his nose. "Are those real cakes?" "Real cakes for real children," Roland confirmed. 7 of them. One for each of you, one for your mama, and extras because why not? 7 cakes, Ella shouted, jumping up and down. "We got 7 cakes." Mrs. Patterson laughed, tears in her own eyes. "Lord have mercy, Marissa, what happened today?" "A miracle," Marissa whispered. "I think I met a miracle." The next hour was controlled chaos. Roland and Mrs. Patterson arranged the small table, which barely fit 4 children around it, and set out plates and forks. Marissa lit candles. They sang "Happy Birthday" 4 times, once for each child, and then once more for good measure. They cut into the chocolate cake first, then the vanilla, then decided they needed to taste every single one to determine which was best. Ethan declared chocolate the winner. Emma chose strawberry. Elijah and Ella tied between red velvet and marble, which led to a lengthy debate about whether ties were allowed in official family cake rankings. Roland found himself sitting on the bottom bunk, watching this small celebration unfold in a room that was barely bigger than his walk-in closet. He watched Marissa trying to keep frosting out of Ella's hair, watched Ethan carefully cut extra-large pieces for his siblings, watched Emma feed bites of cake to her teddy bear with solemn ceremony, watched Elijah analyze the flavor architecture of each cake with scientific seriousness. And he felt something he'd thought was dead. He felt present. For 3 years, Roland had been a ghost in his own life, moving through days without inhabiting them. He'd attended board meetings without hearing the discussions. He'd signed contracts without reading the terms. He'd existed in a gray space between living and dying, unwilling to commit to either. But here, now, in this cramped shelter room with 4 children high on sugar and joy, he felt the world come back into focus. They reminded him of Sophie, not in specific features or mannerisms, but in their essential aliveness, their capacity for joy despite circumstances, their trust that the adults around them would try their best. Sophie had trusted him like that, had believed he could fix anything, solve any problem, chase away any monster, until the one day he couldn't. The one moment when all his money and power and careful planning meant nothing against the randomness of tragedy. "Mr. Roland," Emma was standing in front of him, holding a plate with a slice of strawberry cake. "You didn't eat any yet. You have to eat some or it's not a real party." Roland took the plate with careful reverence. "Thank you, Emma, I'm honored." "That's a big word," she observed, climbing up beside him on the bunk. "What's it mean?" "It means I feel lucky to be here with you." She considered this seriously, then nodded. "We're lucky too. We got 7 cakes." "That's a lot of cakes." "It's the most cakes in the whole world probably." She swung her legs, watching her siblings. "Mama was sad when she left today, but now she's happy again. Did you make her happy?" Roland looked across the room at Marissa, who was wiping frosting from Elijah's glasses and laughing, actually laughing, her whole face transformed by genuine joy. "I think we made each other happy," he said honestly. Emma patted his hand with her small, sticky one. "That's good. People should make each other happy." From the mouths of children, Roland thought, came the simplest truths. As the celebration wound down and the children's energy began to flag, Mrs. Patterson helped coral them toward the bathroom to wash up. Marissa began carefully packing the remaining cake into the small kitchenette's refrigerator, trying to make 7 cakes fit in a space designed for one. Roland stood knowing he should leave. He'd done what he came to do. The children were fed, celebrated, happy. His work here was finished. But he found himself hesitating, unwilling to return to his empty penthouse apartment, his silent rooms, his carefully maintained numbness. "Roland," Marissa turned to him, her eyes still shining with tears and joy. "I still don't know how to thank you. This is the best day we've had in 16 months, maybe longer. You gave my children a memory they'll carry forever." "You gave me something too," Roland said quietly. "You reminded me what matters." "What matters?" "Showing up, trying, being present for the people who need you." He looked toward the bathroom where the sound of splashing water and giggling was leaking under the door. "Your children are lucky to have you. I hope they know that." "They don't," Marissa said with a sad smile. "Therefore, they just know I'm mama and I'm supposed to take care of them. They don't know how hard I'm trying, how scared I am, how close to the edge we're dancing every single day." She crossed her arms, hugging herself. But maybe that's how it should be. Maybe children should be protected from knowing how fragile everything is. Roland thought of Sophie, who died without knowing it was coming, without fear or understanding. Was that mercy or tragedy? He still didn't know. "Can I ask you something?" Marissa said suddenly. "And you can say no, but would you want to come back, not with cakes or gifts or anything, just to visit? The kids would love it. They don't have many positive male figures in their lives, and I think maybe it would be good for you too." Roland felt something catch in his chest. The old him, the ghost him, would have declined politely, would have retreated back into isolation, convinced he had nothing left to give. But the man who'd bought 7 cakes for children he'd never met was someone slightly different, someone Alina would have recognized, someone Sophie would have been proud of. "I'd like that," he heard himself say. "I'd like that very much." Marissa's smile could have lit the whole building. "Really?" "Really?" He pulled out his wallet and extracted a business card, simple, elegant, with just his name and phone number. "Call me when you want to schedule something, or if you need anything, anything at all." She took the card like it was made of glass. "I can't keep taking from you." "You're not taking. You're giving me a reason to show up to my life again." He looked at her steadily. "That's worth more than cakes." The bathroom door burst open and 4 damp children tumbled out, ready for round 2 of celebration. Ethan ran to his mother, Ella to Mrs. Patterson, and Emma and Elijah to Roland, who found himself with 2 small humans attaching themselves to his legs. "Do you have to go?" Elijah asked, looking up at him with those serious eyes behind taped glasses. "I do," Roland said, "but I'll come back if you want me to." "We want you to," Emma declared. "You can meet our stuffed animals next time, they'll like you." "Then I'll definitely come back." He gently detached them and moved toward the door. Marissa followed, stepping into the hallway with him. "Roland," she said softly, "thank you for everything, for seeing us, for not looking away." "Thank you," he replied, "for letting me be part of your family's joy, even for just one night." He started down the hallway, but her voice stopped him. "Roland, your wife and daughter, they'd be proud of you, what you did today, who you chose to be." His vision blurred. He nodded, not trusting his voice, and continued down the stairs. Outside, the night had fully fallen. The city lights sparkled against the dark sky. Roland sat in his car for a long moment before starting the engine, letting the emotions wash over him instead of pushing them away. For 3 years, he'd been convinced that his capacity for joy died with Alina and Sophie, that the best he could hope for was successful numbness, that moving forward meant betraying their memory. But sitting in that cramped shelter room, watching Quadruplets celebrate 7 cakes, he'd realized something Alina had tried to teach him their whole marriage. Healing doesn't mean forgetting. Moving forward doesn't mean leaving behind. And helping others doesn't diminish our own grief. It sanctifies it, giving our pain purpose. He pulled out his phone, and for the first time in 3 years, called his business partner James. "Roland, everything okay? It's late." "James, I need you to set up a meeting with the Hamilton Street Shelter Administration. Tomorrow, if possible." "The shelter, why?" "Because I've been writing checks and calling it philanthropy. It's time I actually showed up. He could hear the shock in James's silence, then cautious hope. Roland, that's great, really great. What changed? Roland thought of Marissa's desperate question at the bakery counter. Thought of 4 small children who'd turned 7 cakes into a celebration. Thought of Emma's sticky hand patting his and her simple wisdom. People should make each other happy. I remembered what I'm living for, he said simply. I'll see you tomorrow. He ended the call and drove through the city. But instead of heading to his penthouse, he found himself driving toward Evergreen Cemetery, where Alina and Sophie rested under matching headstones. He parked and walked to their graves, which he hadn't visited in 6 months. The groundskeepers kept them neat, flowers from the maintenance service fresh in the built-in vases. Roland knelt between the 2 stones, his expensive suit soaking up dew from the grass. I met a woman today, he said to Alina, his voice cracking. She lost her husband. She has 4 children. She's fighting so hard, and I saw myself in her. The me I used to be when I was fighting for you, for Sophie, for the life we were building. He touched Sophie's headstone gently. And I met Quadruplets. They're your age, baby girl. They're loud and funny and smart and so full of life. They reminded me of you. They reminded me that the world still has children in it who need people to show up for them. Tears fell freely now, 3 years of suppressed grief finally breaking through. I'm not going to forget you, either of you, but I can't keep dying alongside you. Alina, you would have hated how I've been living. You always said our privilege was a responsibility, that we had to use what we had to lift others. He wiped his eyes. So I'm going to try, I'm going to show up, I'm going to help that family, I'm going to be someone you'd both recognize again. The night wind rustled through the trees, and Roland chose to believe it was Alina whispering her approval. He stayed there for an hour, talking to them, crying, laughing at memories. And finally, saying a proper goodbye to the frozen grief he'd been carrying. When he stood to leave, his legs were stiff and his heart was raw, but he felt lighter than he had in years. Driving home, he made a list in his head. Call the shelter, research childcare solutions for low-income families, review the foundation's current projects, reconnect with the board members Alina used to work with, show up, show up, show up. His phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Mr. Roland, this is Marissa. I just wanted to say thank you one more time. The kids are asleep now with full bellies and huge smiles. Ethan said to tell you that you're his new best friend. Emma wants you to know that strawberry cake is the best. Elijah wrote you a thank you letter on a paper towel attached. And Ella said you have kind eyes. They all want to know when you're coming back. So do I sleep well. You earned it. M. Attached was a photo of a paper towel with crayon writing. Thank you, Mr. Roland. Roland pulled over to the side of the road because his vision was blurring too much to drive safely. He sat there in his expensive car, holding his expensive phone, reading a thank you note written in crayon on a paper towel by a 4-year-old boy he'd met 3 hours ago. And he laughed. Not the bitter, hollow laughter of grief, not the polite laughter of business dinners, but real, genuine, joyful laughter that came from somewhere deep in his chest where he'd thought all feeling had died. He texted back, "Tell Elijah his letter is the nicest thing anyone's written to me in years. Tell all of them I'll be back soon. Tell yourself that you gave me back something I thought I'd lost forever. Thank you, Marissa. R." Then he drove home to his penthouse apartment, which was still empty and silent, but no longer felt quite so much like a tomb. That night, for the first time in 3 years, Roland Vance slept soundly, dreaming not of accidents and loss, but of 4 small children and 7 cakes, and the possibility that broken people could help each other heal. And in a shelter room 3 miles away, Marissa Chen tucked her quadruplets into their bunk beds, whispered prayers of gratitude over each sleeping face, and allowed herself to hope, just a little, that maybe, just maybe, they were going to be okay. Because sometimes the richest gifts come from the brokest places. Sometimes strangers become family. Sometimes grief transforms into purpose. And sometimes, on an ordinary Sunday afternoon, a desperate question in a bakery can change 5 lives forever. 7 cakes. 4 children. 2 broken souls. 1 moment of courage. And the beginning of healing for everyone involved. What would you have done if you'd been in that bakery? Would you have walked past Marissa's desperation, or would you have had the courage to step forward like Roland did? This story reminds us that healing doesn't just flow one direction. Sometimes the person giving the gift needs it just as much as the person receiving it. Roland wasn't just feeding 4 hungry children. He was saving himself from the numbness that had consumed him for 3 years. Marissa wasn't just accepting charity. She was teaching a grieving man that there's still beauty and purpose in this broken world. We all have moments when we can choose to look away or lean in. We all encounter people who are fighting battles we know nothing about. And we all carry our own hidden grief, our own secret struggles, our own desperate need to matter. If this story moved you, if it made you tear up during the cake reveal, if it made your heart ache for both Marissa and Roland, if it reminded you that small acts of kindness can transform lives on both sides of the exchange, then I need you to do something for me right now. Smash that like button if you believe the world needs more people like Roland who choose courage over comfort, who show up even when it's hard, who remember that their pain can become someone else's purpose. Drop a comment below and tell me, healing flows both ways. Let me know this message reached you. Share a time when you were either the giver or receiver of unexpected kindness. Your story might be exactly what someone else needs to read today. Subscribe and hit that notification bell because I'm committed to bringing you more stories like this. Stories about real people, real struggles, and real transformations. Stories about justice served, dignity restored, and hope rekindled. Stories that remind us we're all in this together, fighting to be better, to do better, to show up for each other. But I can only keep making these videos if you support this channel. Every like tells the algorithm this content matters. Every comment builds a community of people who care. Every subscriber proves there's an audience hungry for stories with heart. We're building something here, a community that believes in second chances, in redemption arcs, in the power of showing up for each other. A community that refuses to accept that the world is beyond saving. Don't just watch, be part of the movement. Share this video with someone who needs to remember that broken people can heal each other. Tag a friend who's been going through it lately. Send it to someone who could use a reminder that their struggles matter and their courage counts. Remember, Roland had everything money could buy, but he was dying inside until 4 children and 7 cakes reminded him what living actually means. Marissa had nothing but her kids and her determination, but she gave a billionaire back his purpose. You never know whose life you might change with a single act of kindness. You never know whose darkness your light might pierce. You never know when showing up might save not just someone else, but yourself. Like, comment, subscribe, share, show up. Because the world doesn't need more people sitting on the sidelines. It needs more people willing to be the Roland in someone else's story. Let's prove that compassion still matters, that humanity still wins, that broken souls can absolutely heal each other. I'll see you in the next one. Stay kind, stay courageous, and keep showing up. Now hit that like button, and let's change some lives together.